Tune into ESG Matters with Risk Insights, where we explore ESG with impact. Welcome back to ESG Matters with Risk Insights. I'm your host, Anushka Bogdanov. These past few weeks, the world has once again been reminded that climate risk is not a distant possibility, it is a lived reality. Catastrophic floods have hit Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, and Sri Lanka. Entire towns are underwater, thousands displaced, lives lost, and infrastructure wiped out. Europe too is confronting rising flood alerts and extreme weather patterns. On the 23rd of November, the long dormant volcano Hayli Gubbi, located in northern Ethiopia, erupted. It was the first known eruption for the volcano in about 12,000 years. These climate events are not an anomaly. This is climate volatility accelerating, reshaping economies, markets, and societies. Climate risk is financial risk, and it touches every sector. It affects banks as collateral shrinks, default risk rises, and capital risk increases. It affects insurers as catastrophe exposure escalates, impacting premium income and investment risk with increased claims paid out ratios. It affects supply chains as ports, farms, and transport systems are disrupted. It affects public health with surges in disease, malnutrition, and heat-related illnesses. It affects societies, increasing displacement, migration, and social instability. And it affects food security, where rainfall unpredictability undermines agriculture. This is why ESG reporting matters. Not as paperwork, but as protection. Transparent ESG data is how we model risk before it becomes crisis. Before we go deeper, I want to recognize the Rwanda Stock Exchange for hosting the inaugural Pan-Africa ESG Awards at the Association of African Stock Exchanges, ASEA. This moment is historic and symbolic. It shows that Africa is stepping confidently into a new era where sustainability, transparency, and accountability are not optional, but strategic. Rwanda's leadership is bold, disciplined, visionary, and impartial. The progress the country has made is truly inspiring. Rwanda is one of the cleanest, greenest countries in Africa. Returning to Kigali after 19 years, I was amazed. The transformation is real. A cultural and structural shift towards environmental responsibility. But to unlock this full potential, ESG disclosure must mature. And of course, we must recognize the companies honored at the Pan-Africa ESG Awards for their leadership, integrity, and commitment to Africa's sustainability journey. The Sustainable Resource Management Award went to Goldfields on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. The ESG Disclosure and Transparency Award was won by MTN Nigeria from the NGX. The top environmental disclosure of the real estate sector went to Redefine on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. The Carbon Emissions Champion Disclosure Award went to Standard Chartered Bank of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The Community Empowerment Initiative Beyond Profit Award went to Attijariwafa Bank of the Casablanca Stock Exchange. The DEI Leadership Award was taken by Standard Chartered Bank from the Ghana Stock Exchange. The Top ESG Performer Banking Award went to the Commercial International Bank on the Egyptian Stock Exchange. Finally, the ESG Pioneer Award, one of the most meaningful categories of the night. It honors those who shaped, accelerated, and elevated sustainability across the continent. These are trailblazers who saw the future long before it was fashionable and acted with courage. The runner-ups were Vidya Sanoj from Botswana, Riham Algizi from Egypt, Teddy Mugabo from Rwanda, Gengan Gupta from Gabon, and Wanjira Maathai from Kenya. Each of these pioneers brought something transformative to Africa's ESG journey. We can only have one winner, and the ESG Pioneer Award went to Moremi Marwa from Tanzania. As we celebrate progress, we need to confront a global truth. Governance is in crisis everywhere. Yet Africa faces a harsher scrutiny. Terms like state capture by rating agencies are weaponized, raising risk premiums and increasing the cost of doing business. Meanwhile, in developed markets, severe governance failures like extreme pay gaps, labor violations, or board misconduct barely affect national perception. Africa faces a double standard. But we also create internal barriers through weak leadership, institutional resistance, and political interference, often protecting entities deemed too big to fail. This is how innovation is suppressed. At the ASEA conference in Rwanda, African exchanges expressed their ambition to attract more capital. Yet the reality remains. South Africa holds the largest share of Africa's formal capital, despite the country holding the title of the most unequal society globally. Inequality is not only because of public policy, it is also driven by private sector injustice, slow transformation, and entrenched interest. To decentralize capital, we must address structural imbalances honestly. Africa cannot build the future using governance models imported from economies that fail their own systems. We need African-centered frameworks that are transparent and enabling, innovative and scalable, integrated across borders, and grounded in African data. Governance must shift from bureaucracy to empowerment. Africa has the youngest population, vast natural capital, and the largest renewable energy potential globally. But potential must become strategy. For the last decade, Risk Insights has said, ESG will become a language of capital. Climate risk will determine investment flows. Disclosure will shape competitiveness, and Africa needs its own analytics, models, and data. We built ESG GPS for this purpose. But institutional resistance slows Africa's readiness. Climate disasters show the cost of delay, mispriced risk, higher insurance premiums, reduced investor confidence, greater social instability, and long-term economic loss. ESG is not a burden. It is Africa's strategic advantage. African resilience must be built on African solutions. Africa is awakening, and the world is watching. With leadership, innovation, and transparent ESG data, our continent can shape the next era of sustainable finance. Climate risk is forcing the world to rethink everything, and Africa has an opportunity to lead, not follow. We have the talent, we have the vision, and we have the urgency. This is Africa's decade. Thank you for joining me on ESG Matters with Risk Insights. Stay with us as we continue guiding Africa towards a more resilient, sustainable, and prosperous future. Ciao for now.